Hello everybody, my name is Wilder, and A Wonderful Life has always been my favorite Harvest Moon game, and one of my favorite games of all time. So when I learned it was getting a remake, I was very excited. Now that the game is here, I've already put a ton of time into it, and I am loving my experience with it. There's a lot I love and a few things I'm not completely thrilled with, but there is a lot I want to talk about, so why don't we just get right into it. Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life released for consoles and PC on June 27th, 2023. And this is a remake of Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life on the GameCube from all the way back in 2003. Not only that, but it also pulls content and changes from the female version of the game, Another Wonderful Life, and the special edition of the game, which released for the PlayStation 2. Now this remake makes a lot of changes to a game that really needed to be touched up. First of all though, this game has a very different structure from the rest of the series, the biggest difference being the chapter system. As you progress through the game, you go through different chapters. There are 7 altogether, and as you pass through the chapters, the town of Forgotten Valley and its residents will change. They'll age and have different experiences that you get to be a part of. Not only that, but you, your spouse, and your child also age throughout the game, which is a very unique experience for the series. Now, one thing that this remake changes from the original, which was changed for the other versions, is that every chapter in the game is only a year long, except for the final chapter, which doesn't end. In the original, all the chapters lasted a different amount of years. They lasted from 1 to 3 years each, and with the limited amount of content the original game had, it made some of the longer years harder to play through, and definitely made the game longer than it needed to be by quite a bit. In this remake though, like I said before, all the chapters are now 1 year long, and that, combined with all the new content, makes it an almost perfect balance. I've personally always loved the chapter system, and while it can be a bit alienating to fans of other games in the series, with certain elements such as forcing you to get married after the first year, I think overall the chapter system works really well for a Story of Seasons or Harvest Moon type game. It's definitely one of my favorite elements of this game. I've always loved getting to a new chapter and getting to see all the changes with the valley and its residents. It keeps the game and its setting fresh for me, and feels like it's this Story of Seasons game I can put the most amount of time into because of how things in the game evolve and change, which means that there's always something to look forward to and work towards seeing. It definitely keeps me playing, it really does. I know that there are a lot of opinions about the chapter system, but that one's just mine, so I would love to hear what you think about it. But enough about that, let's move on. Let's talk about the changes that were made in this remake compared to the original. First, I want to talk about how this game looks, because this was my biggest concern when it came to A Wonderful Life being remade. In the original game, there was a very realistic and kind of gritty feel to everything. Not only did the actual graphics themselves help with this, but the lighting was amazing. It gave that feeling and atmosphere that I love so much, and I was very concerned when it came to a remake that it wouldn't be there anymore. And that's kind of true. You still get those moments in this remake where it's getting late and it's raining or snowing and the visibility gets bad, almost like it's kind of foggy and you can't see well because of all the rain or snow. That's here, which is great, it's just not as intense. And as for the morning lighting, where you would wake up and it would be dark, but the sun was just appearing over the horizon and it actually made you feel like you were up and outside first thing in the morning, that's really not in this game anymore, or not as prominent at least. And as for the game looking realistic and kinda gritty, that style has been replaced with a more pastel style, which, don't get me wrong, is still nice and pretty, but it definitely doesn't share the same feeling as the original. This is not a problem at all though. As much as I love the original and its feel, this remake does a good job at making sure that it has its own identity while still feeling really familiar, and I think that the developers did a fantastic job with this. Although I'll always love the look and feel of the original game, this remake does look nice. And like I said, feels familiar while also standing on its own. Moving on though, other than how the game looks, one of the biggest changes, and a very welcome one at that, is your tools. You can now upgrade your tools, and have them not only use less stamina, but also cover a wider area when using them. Now you don't have to spend all day watering a full field of crops, thank God. That was one of the worst things about the original game, hands down. Now in order to get these newer tools, you have to buy them from Van, who will come to town selling the next upgrade for you. There's copper, silver, gold, and mythic tools like in the rest of the series. While I love this change, because I mean, who wouldn't? It's such a nice and very needed quality of life feature. One thing that we did lose due to this was the tool shed and all of those weird and interesting tools that you could collect in the original game. I always loved seeing all the tools hanging up and getting to collect them all and actually view your collection of tools whenever you would go into the tool shed. However, as interesting as all the tools were and as fun as it was to befriend everyone to try and collect them all, I do have to admit that just having a separate inventory for your tools and being able to have them all organized and easy to use makes up for losing the tool shed completely. It will always be something I miss though, I won't lie. But that's not all that's been changed when it comes to quality of life changes, of course. A big problem with the original game was how long every action took. The animations were nice and proper, but they took too long to get through. The remake has sped up just about everything, from picking up flowers to how you put things away in your bag, to the animation for opening doors. Opening your bag through the quick menu no longer stops time and all movement. You can plant multiple seeds at once in your fields. You can even buy fertilizer spreaders that will automatically spread fertilizer for you so you don't have to take the time every day to do it. There is so much that they touched up here, it's actually pretty insane. However, while doing this, they definitely took out something that I was sad to learn was no longer a mechanic. In the original, your cows wouldn't give milk after you bought them. They would have to give birth first. Then they would give milk for about a year, a little bit more, and then stop until they gave birth again. This was a very realistic mechanic that a lot of people would always talk about when it came to A Wonderful Life. It's a mechanic that's never been in another Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons game, and it really was unique. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I don't understand why this isn't a thing anymore. It's so much easier to just have the cows give milk always, and it's no longer a hassle to manage a full barn of cows and have to plan multiple miracle potions. It is something that I'll definitely miss though. However, it wasn't taken away without anything new coming in. Now, if your cow gives birth, their milk production afterwards will increase significantly for a short while to make up for the time when they were pregnant. This means that if you have high quality milk coming from one of your cows and you get it pregnant, afterwards you'll be making a pretty penny. It is a shame to see such a unique mechanic go, but it's completely understandable. And if I'm being honest, after playing for so many hours, it's been nice not to have to worry about when my cows are going to stop giving milk. The consistent stream of income has also been helpful too. But yeah, there are so many changes in this game. There are definitely some I still don't know about yet, and I'm excited to get to them. But I have to mention one of the biggest problems with the original Wonderful Life, and that was, like I said earlier, the lack of content. There wasn't a lot to do in the original, especially when you got later in, and this remake tries to change that while also keeping true to the original game. Something the original didn't handle well were festivals. There were only one per season, which does make sense due to the seasons only being 10 days long. But they were short cutscenes that weren't too terribly interesting, and you couldn't even bring your family with you. You just ditched them to go have fun. In this remake, however, all the festivals have been completely revamped, and although they're still just cutscenes every year, you do get to participate somewhat in some of them by bringing your own dishes for the New Year's Festival and the Harvest Festivals. Not only that, but your family finally joins you every year, so you get to have unique dialogue for the new Fireworks Festival. And overall, although the festivals aren't anything crazy, they're certainly more memorable than they were before, and it is a nice improvement. One of the best additions to this game, though, in my opinion, is the Wonders. Wonders are basically in-game achievements. You obtain them by completing certain tasks, such as having a certain number of animals born on your farm, or reaching a certain chapter. The Wonders are such a good addition to a game like this where the original suffered from lack of goals after a certain point. This, combined with the encyclopedia, which keeps track of everything there is to collect in the game, and the request board, where throughout the seasons, residents of the valley can request for you to bring them certain items or cooked dishes for rewards, it adds a ton of content for those of you who are completionists like myself. I've really been enjoying the experience of trying to 100% this game, since my progress and everything I've collected from recipes to animals is actually being tracked. I think it fits with this game really well and adds a ton of stuff to do and strive for without really changing much in the first place. It's clever. But yeah, this remake did a really good job at making the game feel so familiar to old players like myself. The dig site is mostly untouched, the chapter system is the same, the layout of the farm is as great as ever, the residents, while having some different names, are still just as full of personality. Also, this game is much more accessible to new players with the quality of life changes and the extra tutorials and explanations, and the more streamlined experiences when it comes to certain mechanics, and of course the chapter system. At first, when you start A Wonderful Life, it can seem like there isn't a ton of content and can seem too slow to quite a few people. But of course, the further you get into it and the more you unlock, the more your days will fill up. And you'll be thinking about the days when you were trying to find things to fill your time with, wondering where all that time actually went. There is a lot to love here. If you were a fan of the original game, then you'll love this remake, and if you've never played the original, then I say definitely give this game a shot and keep an open mind about how it's laid out and how it plays out throughout the years. Maybe you'll even understand why this is still, to this day, my favorite farming sim of all time. But that's going to be all from me today. Let me know what you think of Story of Seasons A Wonderful Life in the comments down below, and let me know if you'll ever be going back to the original games. I'll probably play them once in a while for nostalgia's sake and for that wonderful lighting and atmosphere, but other than that, honestly, the remake has everything I'll need. I think they did a fantastic job here, or I guess you could say a wonderful job. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and as always, I will see you in the next one.